A couple days ago, I did a segment talking about how these riots across the country were pre-planned by extremist groups. There was a video that went viral showing a young man finding a big stack of bricks outside of a courthouse, and there was no construction anywhere in sight. He said, "This is a setup." We now have many more instances of activists finding big stacks of bricks in areas where protests are planned. And in response to this, various jurisdictions are calling this out, saying they have seen evidence that extremist groups, likely anarchists, which I think is wrong, but we'll get to that, have been planning this and dropping off weapons and gasoline and other objects they can use to incite violence and cause maximum damage. But outside of the speculation, the calls for investigations, we actually have a video now. A black woman holding a brick walks up to a car, knocks on the window and says, "Why did you give this brick to young black men? They can get in trouble." The activists inside, or whatever you want to call them, apologize. And it's a bunch of young white Antifa looking extremists who take back the brick. So this is the best evidence we have so far of far left extremists going around giving weapons to people to incite violence. It doesn't prove that all the bricks were laid out by Antifa, but I'll tell you this. They tried blaming the far right. But I have been around many of these far left extremists. I have seen them plan just these things. They talk about getting vans, loading them up with bricks, driving up in the wee hours of the morning and planting them. And now we have some evidence to suggest it. But more than that, numerous jurisdictions. We got New York, Minnesota, Chicago, Kansas City, it looks like, all saying they have found weapons and riot materials littered throughout their cities. Well, now Trump is getting tough. On a call with various governors, he said he wants to see these riots dominated. And Bill Barr is stepping in and will be going after Antifa. We've already gotten a Perp Walk in Nashville. They arrested someone and they propped him up for a photograph. They are going to come after each and every one of these people who's engaged in this behavior. One guy in Portland punted a man's face full force while he lay unconscious on the ground, and now his face is all over the internet. These people don't seem to realize this is not a game, and law enforcement will come for you. They have your face on camera. That you're not getting away with any of this. It's just a matter of time. Chicago is calling for an investigation into who organized this, and they're going to be able to track the money down. So let's take a look at what's happening, and we'll start with the New York Police Department saying unnamed groups had planned the violence in advance. And I'll show you all the other jurisdictions, and then we'll talk about what this means for law enforcement. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are several ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is share this video. Now, this more than ever. I think people need to know that this is being planned out. Let me remind you, in Washington, D.C., just the other day, this video goes viral. A man was seen breaking up the sidewalk with a hammer, and the peaceful protesters stopped him and handed him over to the police because the real protesters don't want this. It's these weird far leftist insurrectionists who want to incite the violence as a pretext for some kind of rebellion. And they have a lot of allies in the media. And there's a lot of viral posts. Now, I'll be honest, it's hard to know who the activists are and who the insurrectionists are because that's the point. They specifically say to these groups and organizing these Antifa groups, you can't let them know you're actually Antifa. You have to make them think you're something else, maybe like Black Lives Matter. So anyway, the point there is, I think it's important people know about these various jurisdictions calling this out. You can share the video. It really does help. Or just hit the like button, subscribe, notification bell to get more videos like this. And let's actually get to the hard news here. NYPD official says unnamed groups planned protest violence in advance from NBC New York. They say New York's top terrorism official says there's evidence that members of anarchist groups from outside the city intentionally planned to incite violence at protests calling for justice for George Floyd. Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterror, John Miller, said there is a high level of confidence within the NYPD that these unnamed groups had organized scouts, medics, and supply routes of rocks, bottles, and accelerants for breakaway groups to commit vandalism and violence. There are strong indicators they planned for violence in advance using at times encrypted communications, he said. 1 out of every 7 arrests of 686 so far had been people from out of state. He said those arrested came from Massachusetts, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Iowa, Nevada, Virginia, Maryland, Texas, and St. Paul, Minnesota. What are these people from Minnesota doing in New York City? That's a long ways to travel. And what they're saying here, look, I have personally witnessed the people planning things like this long time ago, not this specifically, but I've seen activists talk about leaving jugs of water out so that activists who get dehydrated can drink the water. There's a viral video right now showing a bunch of police destroying water bottles. And the left-wing activists are outraged, saying the police are looting. How could they destroy water? They're destroying the water because it's used by activists to rehydrate as they riot. It is pre-planned. Now, I think maybe it does go too far because everybody needs water, regardless of if they're rioting or not. We don't want anyone to die. But they're setting up resources throughout the city so they can maximize the damage they do. And that being said, I'm not surprised the police would actually take the water. But there's more. You see, Minnesota had said that they believed outside influences, either foreign or domestic, were manipulating these protests. Well, now they take it one step further. Public Safety Commissioner reports caches of incendiaries, flammable materials found in areas of Metro. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety Commissioner John Harrington reported Sunday evening that law enforcement officers have located incendiary and flammable materials that have been cached in the Metro as protests continue in reaction to the death of George Floyd. According to Harrington, a number of the caches were found in areas where fires had previously been set. I want to stop right here because I've done a video on this and it got a couple 100,000 views. But I did a video earlier in the morning about this being organized insurrection. It got substantially more views. And I want to make sure this is included in these developments. In the Bay Area, 2 federal officers were shot. One was killed. A white van pulled up a panel. They opened the side panel door with a rifle, shot at both of them, killing one of them. This is shocking. It's shocking evidence of organization beyond just some young people. Now I know we have the video of young people handing out bricks, but these are just the useful idiots who think they're playing some fantasy game. Their faces are on camera. They are going to go to prison. Some young woman drove up in New York with a Molotov cocktail. Her and some guy, 2 lawyers. They're getting federal charges. They're going to prison. This is not a game. These young, dumb people don't realize what's really going on. And they're going to spend a very long time behind bars because of it. But take a look at this one. Minneapolis police. Well, this is kind of what we just saw. Incendiary materials and accelerants, like water bottles full of gasoline, have been found hidden in the bushes and throughout neighborhoods in Minneapolis. If you find or see anything, please call 911. Chicago. Quote, there is no doubt this was an organized effort. The mayor says she sees strong evidence to that effect, and she's seeking federal help to determine who did what. KC Police. We have learned of and discovered stashes of bricks and rocks in and around the plaza and Westport to be used during a riot. If you see anything like this, you can text 911 and let us know so we can remove them. This keeps everyone safe and allows your voice to continue to be heard. Donald Trump recently posted this video. Perhaps the most egregious video. It's going viral, and this dude is in a world of trouble. We don't really know what's happening in this video, but this is direct evidence that there are people with cash funding what's happening on these streets. Now, I got to be careful here. You got to be very careful with this. This man is seen, presumably, handing out money. It's hard to know for sure because of the man blocking him. But you can see here, it looks like he's closing his wallet, putting it in his pocket. And he says something about getting whatever you can get. And then he says, we got 3 picnic tables over here. The left has said this man was simply trying to buy water and supplies and food and things like that so that people are healthy and safe. And that's fair. However, conservatives have said it's evidence that they're either paying the protests to engage in this behavior, the protesters or the rioters, or they're funding them in any capacity. And so I'll stop right there. Regardless of whether or not this man is being paid to riot, Donald Trump says, anarchists, we see you. I'm going to address that after this. Regardless of what the intent was, it appears we have what looks like a far left activist providing cash to another man. In the end, what does it really mean? Somebody gave someone money? Do they know each other? Are they buddies? Was he saying, go pick up some pizzas for us? We really, really don't know. But I often say this. It doesn't really matter what is true in these situations. And that's what's really scary. It matters what people think. And the president has just posted this video in which people believe activists, at the very least, are providing cash resources to the rioters in any capacity. Like I mentioned, the water. Yeah, people need water, man. I don't like the idea of cops dumping out water and destroying it because I don't want to see people dehydrated no matter who they are. I want everybody to be safe. Yeah, And that means even the bad people. Look, when you're in war and you've got an enemy combatant and they're injured, you provide first aid to them. It's because people are, they're not trying to be evil, but you get real problems then. These guys have access to resources and funding through whoever these people are. But I don't want to speculate on what this video is. He mentioned something about going and getting whatever it is you can. I don't know what that means. But in the end, Trump supporters, conservatives will view this in a very negative light. When you take this video into consideration with all the other statements made by the police, it does not look good. Now, I want to make sure I address what they're saying about anarchists. These people are not anarchists. They are not. Oh, sure. Some of them will draw the anarchist A on the side of buildings, but these people are not anarchists. Antifa is a direct reference to a historical group that had connections to the Communist Party of Germany. Anybody who seeks to use violence to enforce their ideology is inherently not an anarchist. Anarchy means without authority. That's the actual root of the word. So I want to make sure that's clear. Anarchists on the right are all about free trade and laissez-faire capitalism, and real anarchists on the left are sitting in the jungles doing hippie dances, not this. Of course, there can be an overlap because the far left is the far left, but let's make that clear. Many of these people might claim to be anarchists, but I don't think it's fair to the actual hippies sitting on a farm eating watermelon and the anarcho-capitalists that you call them as such. Let's be fair to the people who actually don't believe in authority, and they don't like Donald Trump either, but they also don't believe in attacking people. What we're seeing from Antifa is violent authoritarianism. The idea that they can use force to make you, to bend you to their will. That is authority. That is you saying you have the authority over them, that you determine what is right instead of having a conversation about it. These people are not anarchists. But take a look at these photos. This is from Conservative Realist. I can't confirm these photos. I've seen many people posting them, but it is going viral. And it looks similar to a lot of what we've seen before. It says, Frisco, Texas. There have been groups organizing protests in Frisco for 5 p.m. this evening. All of a sudden, this shows up on the path of the protest. You want to tell me this is not planned and organized now? In this photo, we can see a stack of bricks. For what? There's nothing around. And people have been pointing out there are bricks just all over the place. What is this? Just some cones and some bricks just placed right there. Some people have said, oh, well, maybe it's from after construction that they've left them there. No, I'm not entirely sure. Here's a tweet from Shoe on Head who says, so what's up with the conveniently placed pile of bricks? Is this a video game? Here's the first video we saw a few days ago where this guy says this is a setup. Here's another photograph. Who is setting up the bricks? No construction going on in these areas, but pallets of bricks in cities across the country ready to throw, just popping up everywhere. Someone has to be looking into this, right? There's just a big old stack of bricks. You know what? Here's another one where they pull apart these construction barriers, stack of bricks. Maybe we can make some argument that it's the far right, knowing they can set up the activists so that they'll grab the bricks and use them, and then the far right can say, gotcha. I mean, that's not Occam's razor, right? The simple solution is the far left wants to riot and the far left wants bricks when they riot. So, and that being said, I know many far leftists who have talked about things like this over the past decade. When I've seen all the Occupy stuff that I covered, all the on the ground protests I've covered, I've seen them talking about doing this. But it doesn't matter. We got video evidence. A little bit, very, very little bit. Take a look at this. This tweet says, thank you to this woman. This woman right here. She walks up with a brick. Let me see if I can play this so you can see what's going on. She's holding a brick in her hand. She hands it back to the people. And she's yelling at them saying, why are you giving bricks to young black men? They're going to get in trouble for this. Think about the logic behind what is going on with these people in this vehicle. Let's see if I can try and get a better shot of who they are. You can clearly see young white people wearing masks. They're apologizing. Oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. You can hear the young woman in the back saying she's sorry. Think about that logic for a second. I do think it's funny that a lot of people said these people were white supremacists because, well, you got to call it like you see it, right? What do you call a group of white people placing weapons and bricks in poor and black neighborhoods and gasoline so that poor areas get burnt down? White people organizing protests in poor areas, showing up and burning things down. I get it. They're not by the literal definition white supremacists, but they're certain they may as well be. You know, they can say whatever they want. I mean, actions speak louder than words. This woman caught them giving out bricks. Now, here's the thing. We don't see her giving the red car giving out the bricks. This could be staged. Honestly, I have no idea. It's very hard to confirm this. We just have a video of this woman walking up to the car with a brick in her hand and saying, "Why are you giving young black men bricks?" And the Antifa looking type saying, I'm sorry, and taking the brick back. Based on this, who should I assume is laying bricks out across these cities? Laying gasoline? Well, the far left, man. Come on. Let's not play any games. Well, the New York Times plays some games because they act like they're stupid. Officials see extremist groups, disinformation, and protests. They talk about bots on Twitter. They talk about how disinformation is being spread. They talk about organized efforts from the far left, but they also talk about organized efforts from the far right. And come on, man. Look, for years, they put up all these videos talking about the far right boogeyman we all had to be scared of. Yeah, well, when the riots came down, it wasn't the far right. It was a bunch of far leftists leading the charge. It was Antifa leading the charge. It was left-wing activists providing the cash. In this, they try and talk about disinformation campaigns, but they also talk about the Boogaloo Boys. Others have seen evidence of right-wing extremists. J.J. McNabb, a fellow at George Washington University's program on extremism, has been monitoring chatter about the protests among anti-government extremists. She has access to dozens of private Facebook groups for followers of the loosely organized Boogaloo movement, which uses an 80s movie sequel as a code word for a second civil war. So that's what they think. She says they want to co-opt them in order to start their war. They see themselves as being on the side of the protesters, and that the protesters themselves are useful in causing anarchy. I hate that they use anarchy all the time. It just means without authority. That's not what these people are fighting for. Some of them maybe, but most of them no. But you can see that they're going to try and paint it as whatever. Well, Bill Barr is deploying federal riot teams to D.C. and Miami to quell unrest, according to the DOJ. And Donald Trump has come out and straight up said it. He slams the governors as weak and urges the crackdown on riots. What did the AP say? Protests? Oh, spare me. You know what they do? That's why they do it. For the longest time, the media has been calling these things protests. No. Hold on. Everybody's been happy with the protests, and everybody's been happy when the police respect them. In Flint, Michigan, the sheriff took his helmet off and they marched together. He said, let's make it a parade. Heartwarming. In D.C., the protesters, the legal First Amendment people protesting stopped Antifa. What we don't like are the cops who are going up to the protest and starting violence. And what we don't like are the rioters going up to cops and starting the violence. These are the problems. So yes, some of these departments and these cops are to blame. And some of these and all of the rioters, really, when it comes to the craziness, a lot of the cops you see reacting the way they are is because of the rioters. But the media has been calling them protesters. Why? That way, when Trump said, you've got to arrest these people, they would keep saying protester. And now it sounds like Trump is saying the grieving people he supported only a couple days ago need to be crushed and arrested. That's the power of language. Trump's clearly talking about the rioters. Come on. But they're going to say protester because, well, they're scared of the rioters. And it really is that simple. This is the challenge that I have with many of these far left activists, even the peaceful ones. OK, you're allowed to peacefully protest. But the issue is the peaceful protesters provide cover for the extremists. It's not the fault of the peaceful protesters. They're allowed to do it. It's the fault of the extremists. But then the media uses the protesters as cover. The media is scared that the rioters and the extremists will come for them. And they have. So what do? They beg. They beg and they pander. And then they do this. Trump said, most of you are weak. You have to arrest people. The president urged the governors to deploy the National Guard, which he credited for helping calm the situation Sunday night in Minneapolis. He demanded that similarly tough measures be taken in cities that also experienced a spasm of violence, like New York, Philadelphia, and Los Angeles. You've got to arrest people. You have to track people. You have to put them in jail for 10 years, and you'll never see this stuff again, said Trump. We're doing it in Washington, D.C. We're going to do something that people haven't seen before. Yeah, it's called a Perp Walk. You want to see what a Perp Walk looks like? First, take a look at this story from the Daily News. Woman identified by sources as Brooklyn lawyer accused of tossing Molotov cocktail at NYPD cruiser used Bud Light bottle for incendiary device. Well, there's the photo. Somebody caught her. This was seemingly a normal woman. How she was radicalized, I don't know. Probably Facebook, not YouTube, because YouTube tends to be against this kind of stuff, no matter who it's coming from. And I mean the YouTubers, all of them. All the political commentary people are like, this is, okay, 99% of them. But now this seemingly regular lawyer decided for some stupid reason to show up with a Molotov cocktail. Guess what? Now her face gets to go everywhere. 10 years, Trump says? Oh, come on. She's facing multiple felonies. Take a look at this lawyer. They arrested him. They caught them. Here's another story. These two young women tried lighting a Molotov and throwing it at an NYPD vehicle. Why? Your face is now plastered all over the internet. You see, Perp Walks existed at a time when we didn't have the internet. So you'd see the cops walk them out, and it was a publicity stunt often, so people could see who these people were when they were getting arrested. Well, now we get to see your photos all over social media. These people, these two women actually had their charges reduced, which I think is insane. They tried throwing a Molotov at an NYPD vehicle. They were initially charged with attempted murder. But we got some legit Perp Walks. Here's one. Metro Nashville. Specialized Investigations Division detectives and SWAT officers moments ago arrested Wesley Summers, 25, on charges of felony arson, vandalism, and disorderly conduct for setting a fire to Nashville's historic courthouse Saturday night. They will find you. What do these people think? They're stupid young people who have spent too much time watching stupid news and being radicalized by far leftists to be used as pawns in their weird insurgency. Some of these people are the organizers themselves. But it is a known fact, I should say, probably not to enough people, that these anti-fascist groups infiltrate regular protests and designate people who are their useful idiots. That's why they leave bricks around randomly. They want you to use them to provide them with cover for the insane things they plan on doing, like going to the Bay Area and firing out of a van at federal officers. What do you think comes next after that? That's why these people are now getting arrested. I feel bad for a lot of them. They're just dumb kids. They really are. Andy No caught these two guys. You see this man laying on the ground? This man laying on the ground was going to be kicked. And these guys, well, there's their faces. That's the face of the men who did it. So maybe Trump is right. You got to come after these people. You got to strike. You got to put them in jail for 10 years. Look, man, I don't know what the right thing to do is, but I will tell you, if you engage in this behavior, if you hurt innocent people, then eventually they will find you. They'll come to your house. What did you think was going to happen? You ever see Fight Club? Reminds me of that scene when they bring in Robert Paulson to the table from that disastrous moment. And he says, you're running around trying to blow things up. What did you think was going to happen? These kids, man, you know what? I'll tell you. Some people have said, I think it was Trump mentioned, or he quoted someone from Fox, that we saw a lot of this early on from Occupy Wall Street. But I'll tell you what, man, these kids being arrested, 25, he was 15 years old. He was 16 years old when Occupy Wall Street happened. He has no idea what's going on. None of these people do. Look at these two young women. How old is she? 27. She was just a teenager. She was 17 or 18 when Occupy was going on. She had no idea what was happening around her. Well, now they've thrown their lives away. This won't end pretty for anybody. But I'll wrap it up with this. The evidence is here, man. I mean, this stuff is pre-planned. Call it what you want. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. YouTube.com/TimCastNews. And I'll see you all then.